Currently 5:21 p.m. Tuesday, August 30th, 2016. We're looking at a post that was placed last night on the boardhost.com board, the message and visions of Stephen Benjamin. In such, we are noting several things that were discussed at 11:36 p.m. on that board last night. Expectations for tropical depression number 9 to do several things in the coming day from that point forward. So it was noted to expect tropical depression 9 to reach the position noted in the chart placed on this board on August 27th at 12:01 p.m. citing an expected position for August 30th to September 1st. That took place at 4 a.m. This morning, August 30th. We'll show that in a moment. It was expected it would strengthen intensity. That did so today. We would expected to see the lower portion of storm bands occupy the Yucatan Channel. That happened today and become a named system. I expect this by midnight tonight, and see the first forecast by U.S. meteorologists for potential landfall site west of Florida. I expect this by midnight tonight as well, although very close to midnight possibly. Let's go ahead and look here. These charts that were placed on here yesterday. Let's look at this one. This was last night, 11:36 p.m. This is a portion of the chart that was placed on the 27th. It noted at that time frame the position of Invest 99L. I superimposed white arrows illustrating the track I expected it to take, and that I expected it to reach this position here, the purple circle, by August 30th to September 1st. Well, it did that. And at this point, though, last night, this was the position of TD9 as of 10 p.m. Central Time last night. And I put the red circle here to illustrate that I expected it to reach that position in the coming day. Well, it did that. This morning at 4 a.m., this is the Facebook page. This was, again, the chart there from the 27th. And this is the position of TD9 at 4 a.m. Now, and you can see that also the storm itself, the lower portion of it, is fully occupying the Yucatan Channel. Now, back to the post from last night. Here, we'll look at this first graphic I placed on here. It was discussing storm tracks. These are storm tracks at 5 p.m. on August, or 5 a.m. on August 29th. Notice they're coming across with potential landfall coming across Tampa and northwards up to Jacksonville and over here in the Orlando area. Well, at 5 p.m., 12 hours later, these tracks had all shifted. Well, forecasters were emphasizing they were shifting north a bit. But I noted last night these things were not shifting north. I've been continually calling for Texas landfall since this was Invest 99L in its first 24 to 36 hours off the coast of West Africa. And I've been calling for it to impact Houston the entire time based on instructions in the Spirit, what I've been told in my visions, and what the Lord has shared with me. So I'm not making anything of myself, but I'm noting that I've been doing these things by counsel of the Lord, and the storm has done exactly step by step what the Lord has told me it would do, what I relayed to others I was told it would do, and many times, most times, in contrast to what meteorologists were saying. Early on, they were projecting to come up through the Bahamas, make a southern landfall at Florida, or skirt the coast of Florida up the east coast and make landfall somewhere up the east coast. In the same time frame, I was noting I expected either to go across the Dominican into the Caribbean Sea, or to continue up in this area and come across Cuba and then enter the Yucatan Channel before going directly up here towards Texas, or towards Texas. And so at any rate, of these storm track models, I noted that U.S. forecasters were shifting their forecast to impact north based on observation of the changing models. But I noted that the models weren't shifting north. Rather, they were shifting west. Now listen to this segment from 4 p.m. this afternoon, August 30th, from the Weather Channel. And this is Weather Underground here. Listen to what they've got to say about this storm at this time.
There. So that's the Big Bend area of Florida that we have that hurricane watch up for. And as soon as we can get the graphics, I'll bring it to you. Here's the latest information. This again, just in, hot off the presses. Winds of 35 miles per hour. So that's good here that this remains a tropical depression. But obviously, the Hurricane Center thinks that there's a possibility of this gathering enough strength to be a 74 mile per hour hurricane before it makes it to the coast sometime.
I've emphasized I believe this is going to reach a Category 2 at some point and make landfall as either Category 2 or Category 1 storm.
But we're seeing indications now that this is trying to get its act together, and I'll show you the satellite picture in a minute.
Listen.
And talk about what I'm seeing now. A little bit of a change here to the forecast cone. They've shifted that cone a little bit to the west there, so now that includes Tallahassee area. Interesting developments here.
It doesn't just include Tallahassee. Look, it's raised above Tampa.
Farther west than we thought it would today. So Tallahassee, you are underneath the cone here. The state capital there in Florida. Interesting.
They're expressing, look at the prompt on the bottom. They're expressing uncertainty with the track.
For the end part of the week into the weekend. And look at this little bend back here to the northwest. That's also an interesting development with this.
So now it's obvious that it's moving west. But last night at 11:36, I was by the Spirit relaying things that were shared with me in the Spirit, noting at that time frame that this was moving west. Even now, the storm is projected by the National Hurricane Center to be moving northwest at 5 miles an hour. Well, northwest here, this is northwest, this is northwest, this is northwest. All of this area up in here is northwest. Due north is straight up towards Alabama. They're saying now it's heading north. They're emphasizing the north part of northwest. Earlier today, they were doing the same thing when it was moving west by northwest. They were citing, oh, it's showing some northerly movements. Well, yeah, it's been showing northerly movements. West by northwest, that's all up in this region over here. But they were emphasizing just the north part because their projections for the last 2 days had been that at some point it was going to move due north. And I'm not saying it won't do that, but they were saying it was going to move due north and then shift northeast. Now, I do believe it's not going to do that, and I'll say that. It's not going to move northeast. It may briefly for a time move north, but then it's going to continue either northwest again or due west, but it's going to make its way to Texas. But if it moves north, due north, it'll be brief. But I do not expect this at all to move northeast at any given time. But they're emphasizing that. So instead of saying, oh, well, it's still moving north by northwest, they're saying, well, it's showing some northern components here, some northwest, some north movement. Well, yeah, but it was still west by northwest, and now it's strictly northwest at 5 miles an hour, and they're emphasizing north. So as you listen to these broadcasts, they're being selective because if it goes the way they want it to go, they want to be able to stand up after the fact and say, see, we told you it was going to do that. But that's not what's been going on. Their forecast has continually changed. Originally, they were projecting this to go up the East Coast. Didn't happen. Then they were projecting a southern tip landfall for Florida. Didn't happen. Then they were projecting as it was coming across Cuba that it would, on the eastern side, that it was going to come up through the Straits of Florida and strongly skirt the bottom half of Florida. It didn't happen. It went across northern Cuba, skirted the top of northern Cuba, and continued impacting the entire western half of Cuba. Cuba's gotten over a foot of rain in the last 24 to 48 hours. And so then they're changed and they're saying, well, earlier they were saying, well, it's going to, when it was on eastern Cuba, they were saying it's going to come up here, come across through the Straits of Florida, skirting the tip, and then turn sharply and come up the western coastline here and much closer and make impact around Fort Myers or upwards, Tampa. And it didn't happen. And so now they're still saying, well, it's going to come out a bit and curve in. Didn't happen. And so finally now they're saying, well, this has moved west, more west than we thought it was. It shifted. Well, it hasn't shifted. It's gone where it was going the whole time. What shifted is their focus and attention. Because the entire time there's been at least one model. You see that very thin line right there? That's the BAMM taking a course to Texas. I noted more than a week ago to pay attention to that line. It was taking a course to Texas the whole time. Today's the first time the BAMM showed anywhere but Texas. It's showing Louisiana now. But the BAMM, the BAMD, and the BAMS have continually, since reaching landfall sites, pointed to a Texas landfall. And while at least 10 other tracks are going northward and eastward. And so they're going with the status quo. They're going with the most likely odds based on the number of computer models. You got 10 computer models saying one thing and one saying another. Well, they don't want to be the guy that's saying, hey, follow this one, ignore the other 9, or the other 10. But I'm telling you what the Lord told me. And this storm is not going to Florida. That's not saying there's not one coming to Florida, but it's saying that this one is not going to Florida. It's coming to Texas. For those paying attention, watch and pray.